started this project, there was no sidewalks, there was no trees, there was no curbs. All the cars and vehicles were parking just in the lawns at the time. And so this street and the street we came up before became part of a green corridor, which the community got involved in, and they wanted to make more green corridors for more walkable with trees and sidewalks, so it was more of a community feel. And that was back in 2007. And the first part of our green corridor improvement was actually the Harrington project, so that street that we came up on the other side where you saw the school on the left-hand side of the bus. We redid that street as well and did something similar to this to put new sidewalks and new buyer retention and landscaping into place. And a big part of it was to get better community infrastructure for Meadowcrest Early Learning Center and McKnight Middle School, which was that school on the other side. And so this project kicked off design in about 2018, and then we got the project done in 2022, I think, is when it finally closed out. So it takes a long time to plan and get these things together, but when we started, it was community-based. And so we went through the design. We had an ice cream social actually right here at the middle school to get people to come out from the neighborhoods. And so the improvements that we were able to do is work with Ecology and get a stormwater grant to get the improvements needed and to work on getting the streets redone, which were outdated and extremely old. So what you're standing on again is that permeable pavement, which we discussed previously. That one was at a bigger community area, and this one's more in localized neighborhoods. Now the challenges with sites with this is streets are really narrow. You don't have as much space to put things in. So we pushed the limits. Right up back in the sidewalk, that's our property line. And so we had to work really closely with all the neighbors here, and we did community outreach to everyone in this neighborhood, sent them letters and flyers and postcards. And then we have our city inspector that through the project, he introduced himself to all of the neighbors here, and we got really lucky. He was a Renton local, so it was nice because most of the people already knew him, so he got to know them and communicate with them about what's going on and keep them updated. And for this project, there was the neighbors here there was 5 like community bases or languages that were being spoken, so we had to get things translated several different times and work with communities, and we reached out to them and did that. And so for the project on the stormwater side of things, we got the permeable pavement, which infiltrates into the ground like we talked about, and to treat the water here, because all the water from here runs off and actually goes to May and Johns Creek. So again, when you're in your local neighborhood, that water goes somewhere. This does go to a creek, and so it was discharging pollutants into that. And so this is a buyer retention cell. So the water, you'll see that there's a little knockout right there at the street, and we slope the roadway. So all the water comes into this facility on that side of the street. It goes into that facility on the other side. And so the water flows through here, and these are all specific specialized plants that we pick, and the soil in here is compost amended, so it does a good job of retaining those pollutants and keeping it in here. And then we have our maintenance crew that comes through and make sure that that we keep the vegetation up to date, and if we need to update any of the soil in here, we do that as well. You might have noticed someone picking out a soda can in this facility, and to be honest, that's kind of what we want. We want the trash and things to go in here because it gets treated, and we don't want trash in general in the environment, but that's what its purpose for, is for those pollutants and trash and things to come into this facility, and that way it doesn't end up in our creeks. So we'd much rather have it come into here, and then our maintenance crews come through this facility and they'll pick it up, kind of like we did just a second ago. They'll come through, pick up that surface level trash, make sure that it doesn't go into our creeks. Because prior to this project, we were having warmer temperatures in our creeks that was damaging the salmon, and there was other different pollutant loadings that were hurting our salmon as well. So by putting this in, we slow down the water, makes it a more natural process, gets rid of the pollutants, lowers the temperatures, and it's extremely beneficial for everyone. And also, our design team integrates by, this is a community, you'll see that these bulb outs kind of narrow the roadway, and that's on purpose. When you see that down here, we have these bulb outs. we were having high traffic through this area, so we were able to accomplish two for one. We were able to get people to slow down traffic by putting these in because it narrows the field of vision, and put these bioretention cells into place. So it makes it more of a community field. You don't get people cutting through the neighborhoods and speeding. It makes it more dangerous for children. And then we also put in, you'll see all these trees and things. So hopefully in the next 10 years or so, these trees will be nice and lush in that green corridor that we're hoping for. So a lot of people will walk down from where we were just at. They'll walk north up here and drop their kids off to school here. Now before this project, we didn't have any of these sidewalks or any of this infrastructure here. So they were actually walking in the street and having to come up that way. So this all started 2007 with a community action plan where we got community engagement, and this is what they kind of deemed as what they wanted to see. And it takes a while to get the funding in place, but we keep working on it. It started with Harrington, which is the street just over, and then we did this project. And so that's kind of how a project starts from A to Z, and how we can incorporate the community and also design like transportation things and stormwater. And we also put a new water line in here as well, so that make sure that the fire hydrant capacity, so you'll see a new fire hydrant across the way on that side of the street, and there's a few more. Prior to this, I mean, this community was in the 1940s, so we didn't have that good water infrastructure for good fire protection, so put in new things as we do these things. So we get an idea and we build it, and we're like, okay, with this idea we need to get funding. We get funding from like the state or federal, and then we say, okay, what else do we need to do for these communities? We outreach with them, and then we work on all the components to try to pull it all together into one piece. And this was a really successful project. The Harrington project was a really successful project, and we got really good feedback from the neighbors. So it's been really exciting work to. Personally, I love this because it's not many places you can see a project from A to Z. Like if you're in just design or so, it's you only see design. So I love working for the city because you get to see it from A to Z, where you work with the community. You get to see the project at the very end, and now I get to show this off to you guys and everyone else. So yeah, any questions?
Who does the maintenance? Is that the City of Renton Park?
No, that's our maintenance staff. Right by the Monroe facility, we have our maintenance shops, and we have I don't know how large our maintenance team is, but it's about 20 for the surface water group that comes out, and they manage the whole area. And Joe, I know you could probably speak a little more to that.
Who did the plants come from?
So that's our contractor. So when we design that, we have a landscape architect who comes in and specialty installs the specific plants, because you need to have specific types to treat the pollutants that come into it. So this is all very specialized and designed to make sure that we draw out those pollutants, and it can survive in that area as well. Any other questions?
Are you planning to expand this kind of project to the rest of the city of Renton?
That's our hope, is like you get these projects and we try to treat the different areas. Now, sometimes it's a bioretention cell. You'll see in other areas down the street we have what are called Filterra units. It's kind of a catch basin, but there's a tree in it and media inside of it. So sometimes you just don't have the space like this, right? So you sometimes have to shrink the footprint, and it'll just live underneath the curbs, or it'll be just on the side. And I could probably jump on the bus on the way back and point out a Filterra when we're driving back, because there's a few down on that other end where we couldn't fit it. But yeah, the hope is that we do treatments at least of this nature to better the community, and it's just all about fitting it into the right spots and where we can do it. But that is the hope.
And you need the funds for that.
And we need the funds for that. So a big part of our job is finding those funds to make sure that we're being good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars.
It comes from the state, you said?
Part of it came from, so the Department of Ecology, so part of it comes from the state, and then we put a piece in as well. And I think our share was 25, the initial pollutants, and then if it overflows, it'll go into overflow, and it'll go then down into there. So that's not necessarily part of treating the water, it's just, that's managing the stormwater. So when you see a big facility like that, it may be part of a treatment facility, but it's just to manage the stormwater so it doesn't overflow into the street. Yep. So the water comes in, and this. I walked over this because I knew there was a berm here. So what happens is we try to slow down the water so it doesn't just all rush out. So we try to put a berm here and put a small pipe so it slows it, and so some of the water stays here and it'll trickle out here and even out. So it's all about trying to keep it so that there's an even amount of water here. So it's part of it, and you need this berm to kind of break it up. And you'll see that on hills and things like that. You'll have berms in the middle, and it's just to create like a pocket for the water to sit so it can like filter through that soil. Because if it just goes straight down the slope, the water isn't going down. You need to actually hold the water so that it can actually draw down and give it time to draw down. So if you go into fire retention and you see steps or hills, that's because they're trying to catch the water.
So as Jared said, there's like 3 really important pieces to these, built pieces that we're mimicking nature with. And so that's slowing down when we get big rainfalls, letting it percolate through and be cleaned, and then also address the flooding. So it's a lot. We're trying to capture it, slow it, because trees like that, our land was covered with trees far bigger than that through history. And that's exactly what they do naturally. So all the leaves on the trees slow and capture, it runs down the bark, and the roots help it, again, slowly filter the pollutants and then recharge the rainfall and also keep flooding to a less degree. So.
Yeah, prior to this project, there was no stormwater on the site at all either. So if it rained, there would just be a giant pond on the side of the road, and that people would have to drive through. And now they don't have to deal with giant puddles everywhere.
And if you have those in your communities, we have ways that you can report, and then we put that on our, okay, this is a priority. This is an area in the community that floods, and we start doing our whole design and involvement and funding and all that stuff. That's what that triggers.
Yeah, for a project like these, it's a huge collaboration. So just be mindful, if you have things coming up, it may take time because it's a lot of effort and there's a lot of people to work with and there's a lot of steps. So make sure you're communicating, because we're hearing you. We're just trying to get all the pieces together to get a project like this put together.
All right.
And one last thing. So as you may have concluded from seeing 3 unique projects, every one of them couples stormwater benefits with other benefits. So on this street, not only we have collected and filtered stormwater, but we improve mobility for the community through the sidewalks and the safer streets. On the previous project at Sunset Park, stormwater was integrated with park amenities. And on the first one we saw, the environmental benefits of recharging the aquifers of the Cedar River and safeguarding the city's drinking water supply. That was also a side benefit of the project. So stormwater projects are generally, projects this big are multi-benefit. They not only improve stormwater, but they address a lot of other issues at the same time.
I'd highly advise on our way out, when you're just looking at, make sure to take a peek at the street as you go down the hill. You'll see the improvements, and then when we get to the next street, see what the differences are in the different communities. And I think if you go a few streets over, you may not see the improvements, and we're working on those. But now you'll see what I see every day when I'm walking down here. I'm like, oh, that's